Good evening. Thank you all for joining us once again on our Wellness Wednesday Happy Hippie Me episode. I'm your co-host, Wendy Vaughn, and this is my beautiful cousin,
Bailey Bailey.
And tonight we are going to be talking about something that I bet many of our viewers can relate to, if at least not for yourself, a friend or a family member, which is really the balance of how much time we spend on all of this wonderful technology, in particular, social media.
Yep.
Okay. Especially in an entrepreneur's life and world, how much time are you spending thinking about posts and scheduling blogs or just whatever, and then doing the real life stuff? So, Peely and I have sometimes arguments about this stuff, not necessarily with one another. We typically see eye to eye.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about Peely. How are these kind of topics being addressed in your world right now?
Well, yeah. So, thank you for introing the topic. And really one of the things that has been, it's almost like a struggle, which is kind of why I really want to dialogue this. And we should definitely do another dialogue, or at least we should put this video up on Facebook and do a watch party so we can get more, get people talking about this, because it's interesting, So I say, let's, getting off of Facebook, and then I said, let's get on Facebook to talk about it. But anyway, hold up. This
Great
is the issue.
Perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is the issue, right? It's so I talk to our business owners. I talk to people who are just regular, women living their lives, and they have chosen either not to be on social media or they've gotten off social media. I remember seeing a post a couple weeks ago, and I didn't read the article, but it was basically a post that was saying, no, it wasn't a post. I'm sorry. It was I remember seeing a video, and on the video, they were saying that, we're living in a world where we're totally distracted. Our minds are fragmented, and it's very difficult for us to focus. Okay. Mm-hmm. And even when you're having a one-on-one conversation, I don't know if this happens for you, and I would love to hear about this, but has it happened for you talking? Literally talking to somebody, and you're also thinking something else. You're literally talking to someone, and you're also thinking something else completely outside of that conversation. Has that ever happened to you? Or maybe every day, right? Yep. Or maybe somebody's speaking to you, and you're looking at them, and you're shaking your head, and you might even be smiling and on the right thing, but your mind is at your grocery list or the next thing you need to do. Or how about when that coworker comes up to your desk, and you were just in the middle of writing an email, and you were right in the middle of that sentence, and you're pretending that you're listening to that person, but you're really in that email and really wanting to get back to it. So there's so many ways that we're being pulled in different directions. And so recently I've been thinking about that and thinking about how it shows up in my life. And one of the ways it shows up in my life is that I can literally be talking and then lose complete train of thought, right? And it's how did that just happen? I feel like that's two thoughts, right? They collided on a path, and then they never got a chance, they intersected, boom, knocked the one that was supposed to come out of my mouth out. The other one, they went flying, and now I'm sitting here going,
literally,
duh, right? So I've just been really thinking about that, and thinking about how do I want to live in my inner world? So, less about the outside world, but how do I want to live on the inner world? And I want to live in an inner world that's much more focused, much more on a track, and that I can actually follow that train of thought, follow that track, and that I can concentrate on something. So I've really been thinking about distraction. And then also, I'm the kind of person that posts authentically, right? So you were just starting to talk about like business, entrepreneurialism. So that's one of the reasons, the majority of the reason that I use social media. The other is that we have family all over. And so, I want them to be able to see my son grow up, and I want them to be able to see what's going on in our lives. But, the majority of the way that I use social media is to connect with people who want to learn and grow and heal in natural ways. So, for me, it's a tool for business, but it's also a tool for time wasting and a tool for distraction and a tool for psychic disturbance. Okay. And I'm saying the word psychic disturbance because I love it. I was listening to The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's book, and he talked about the psychic disturbance and that being one of the ways that we can recognize that we're out of sync with the present moment. So now I'm like, I not look forward to, but like when psychic disturbances come, I'm like, that's like a bell. It's a ding dong that's saying, wake up.
I like that.
Wake up, right?
You're right.
There's something wrong here. There's something that's off the track. Wake up. And so then that my real self, right? That present self, that self that is in connection and in flow with all that is living and all that is energy, right? That self wakes up and recognizes, oh, I've been believing my own press release. Okay, so don't let me get into that. But
I know.
You know me and my love of the work. But
well, but it's true. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talk about Eckhart is amazing. His The Power of Now being the first one, and then I can't think of the second book, but it just goes deeper into that same premise. But then you have Energy Vampires by Dr. Christine Northrup. You have the stuff that Byron Katie talks about. All of these different people that we often share, even Louise Hay. These different folks come out of their true human experience of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And oftentimes the stuff that doesn't work is the stuff that once worked, but it just doesn't work anymore. So that's what happens as we grow. I know, Peely, you were just telling me about like some ways that you told me some cool stories about how Gabriel was responding to like a really cool, he had the choice to choose his own consequence. We won't call it punishment, but he had his own consequence for not listening. And so he was like totally in the conversation. He understood, okay, I didn't listen to mom. It is time for my consequence. And he chose his consequence, and which was he couldn't have a toy. He had to get one of the toys.
Take a toy away.
He got the chance to take a toy away. And so when she chose the toy to take away for a full day, he went ballistic. And so, but he's also 5. So, but how many of us, after we have the consequence that comes as a result of one of our actions or behaviors, which is the consequence, look, we can't control consequences now. Do we do that ballistic thing? Right. And so it does have a developmental thing, and we end up learning that the way we first respond to something, oftentimes it has a growth period where we advance from that area where we were. I'll try not to use words that make it seem like one person's better than the next, because I also function with the premise that everybody is doing the best they can in that moment, because you don't know what you don't know.
Don't know. And so that's one of the things also that I have. Okay, so going back to what we just said, we're talking about getting off of social media. And the reason we're talking about getting off of social media is because social media, the distractions of social media, right? Also, one of the other things is the disconnection. it's an odd thing that you can be so connected and disconnected at the same time. And so I think it's interesting that now people are sliding into the DM, which I don't really know what that means, but I think it means that people are DMing each other and people are sliding into the private messenger. So that means that they're private messaging each other. So this is me being an older person, not knowing what the terms actually mean. So if I'm using it incorrectly, then comment, I guess, on the
Oh God.
Right, so, but here's what I'm thinking about the disconnection, distraction and disconnection. It's that we can talk to all these people, we can post on all these things, we can make our opinions known, we can show pictures of what we're doing in our lives, and we can come up with catchy captions for our pictures. But are we really spending time with each other? Are we really being together with people that we meet in our daily life, like not online, but actually in our daily life? And one of the things that I've been thinking about is, how am I showing up in my immediate relationships, the ones that are in my house that I see every day, that I bump into, and how am I, being towards them? Because one of the things that we tend to do is we tend to be kind to the people, the strangers out and around us, but maybe the people that are closest to us, they get the leftovers, or they get the, I'm tired, I come home after a long day, and now, my son wants me to do caracole jumping, and I'm tired, and then he's getting this tired me and this non-engaged me, and what he sees is me on my phone trying to unwind, right? I'm trying to decompress. I'm on here and I'm scrolling and I'm trying to feed the insatiable demon, right, that keeps you on here, that keeps you going back to your phone. After. Like, I don't know if anybody else does this, so I'm just going to wrap myself out right now. But like, I have literally checked Facebook 5 times in a row after putting the phone. Like, I will check it, be like, oh yeah, I just did that, put it down. And I did it again. And then finally was like, why do I keep going back to this every minute or two?
Right.
And it was something that I wasn't conscious of until the 5th time of doing it. And then I woke up.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
How many times are we walking around in our world just kind of on autopilot and not really here, right? So we're not only distracted, we're not only disconnected, but we're also disassociated from ourselves. And I feel that social media really breeds that disassociation.
It does, and it. So here I go playing devil's advocate, because you pointed out all the points and on why it most certainly, technology and its discontents. But you brought up some good points about how oftentimes when you post, you're connecting authentically with, family that don't necessarily live close. I don't think all of your husband's family necessarily lives in town. So there's interactions there. I think it's a matter of balancing our energy, because our parents and our grandparents, they didn't necessarily have social media, but they had their own distractions for their day. Social media is certainly more pervasive, and it's ever present, because it's literally glued to our phone, and then our phone is glued to our ear. So literally on the way home today, there was a guy behind me who I literally saw looking down the whole time. And I was just like, Lord, can I get out of this line? Because I didn't want him to not hit his brakes and hit me in the back. I literally saw him on his phone the entire ride home. And so just knowing that people are driving, watching Game of Thrones. I don't know who does that, but some people do it. So my whole point is saying that people are that glued to their phones, social media, the distractions. And but we still had disconnections before this occurred. And it was because we take things for granted. We take the things closest to us, the people who live with us, for granted because we love them. They know who we are. They know we mean well. I think part of that has something to do with it. We effort to make those connections with clients or networking events or just people that we don't see all the time because we don't take it for granted because we know we're not going to have a chance to see them, talk to them if we don't capitalize on that moment. So I think that when I see movies like about, funny enough, I'm going to say Steve Jobs, you know, I recently watched the movie where Ashton Kutcher played him, and it was before technology got as bad as it is now, and he's in tech, so that's why it's kind of funny. But because of his tremendous focus on his career, you know, it wasn't necessarily that he was like on his phone checking social media trying to like, but he was an entrepreneurial spirit, you know. Remember Michelle Obama's book and the type of attention that Barack had to give to the work that he wanted to do, ultimately to help something not only that his family could appreciate, but the entire world could appreciate. And she had to make that choice to either stick with him or not. So I think that everybody has a purpose, and the way that we communicate what we're doing to others, I think, like, meaning what we're doing, not to others, but what we communicate, how we communicate what we're doing for our own selves, being cognizant of how it's affecting other people around us. So we make sure that we're not allowing the fact that we're so close and you're my sister or you're my husband, you're my kid, or just whatever, the fact that we're not just taking that relationship for granted, but that we're communicating, hey, you know, I'm not going to be around tomorrow, or I'm going to have to leave early. So, you know, can we spend time today? Or these are the things I have to do. Can we make time next Saturday? And that kind of stuff feels unnatural for me personally, because here comes next Saturday and it's like, oh my God, an opportunity came. I really want to I want to capitalize on this opportunity. I want to go to this networking event, and I just promised next Saturday to, you know, I mean, it starts to get.
And it's also like, and I think, you know, it's also within reason, within the boundaries, you know what I mean? So like, I'm a very boundaried person. I've developed boundaries. It wasn't that I've always had boundaries or like, but I've had to learn how to develop boundaries. And now they're pretty firm. And I know that for some people that might be off-putting, especially if they don't have very firm boundaries. But for me, it was something that I needed to do in order to offer myself the safety to be who I am.
Right.
Because when I didn't have boundaries, there was a lot of inward input coming to me, telling me who I should be, or how I didn't measure up to the ideal of what I should be. And then that became my internal thought process, right, of how I don't measure up. And you know what? I was just listening to the work of Byron Katie. I was listening to it, and she was saying that there are no new stressful thoughts.
I love that.
All the thoughts that stress you out, other people have those thoughts too. And even those ones that you think nobody else thinks like this, I must be so weird, I'm the only person that's ever felt like this. Trust me, you're not. And what's beautiful about that is that gives us a place of connectedness to recognize all people as somebody who feels pain, love, joy, you know, all the emotions. They feel it all just like I do.
Right.
And that maybe there's less that separates us and more that connects us. And if we can really start to zone in on that and really start to be authentic with who we are and allow other people to be authentic with who they are, and allow that not to infringe on my selfness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that I'm who I am and you're who you are, and you can be who you are, who I'm to mold you into something that looks like me so that I can feel comfortable, right?
Exactly.
Because that's what it really is. When we're trying to change other people, we're trying to change them into our image,
right?
So that we can feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, and this is why.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. My mom, Auntie Wanda, for you, of course. She read a book back in the day. I don't know if it was one of her junior college psychology courses called "I'm Okay, You're Okay." And I have been looking for this book. I'm going to put that back on my list of things to research because this came out back in the day. I'm okay, you're okay. And that's actually, my little slogan on IG. It's like, because I know how intensely terrible it feels, really, to feel like you have to change yourself to fit in or to please other people. I give people, I let people off the hook. If I say, hey, I'm having this party and somebody promised to be there and can't make it, I'm the last person to give that person a guilt trip, because I remember being, sick and not feeling well, but I still looked like I was cool, but inside, I was in a lot of pain. And people gave me crazy guilt trips. They thought I didn't really care about them. And I felt terrible because at the time I didn't know how bad Crohn's and all that stuff was. I had never heard of any of that. But I remember later on, when I look back on it, I still went out of guilt to please people because I didn't feel okay because they weren't okay because I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. And more and more, it's important for me to teach folks that you doing what you need to for yourself is not being selfish. It might be misunderstood.
Somebody might call it selfish.
Right. You so need to be able to stand your own ground and know that you're a good person for yourself, and your validation needs to be good enough. And when your
thought of you needs to be good enough. But the problem is that most of us have internalized our inner critic, right? So instead of it being from the outside source, we have an inner source. Or like, have you ever heard yourself thinking, oh, what are people going to think? What's everybody going to think? But what are they going to think if oh my God, people are looking at you. What are they going to think? And I used to be like, I could remember being in, high school, walking in the mall and being so self-conscious and just really feeling very like, I just felt self-conscious. And I remember just as I was feeling the most self-conscious, my mom looked at me and she's like, if you walk like that, people are going to think you're self-conscious.
Oh, wow.
But I was really uncomfortable in my own skin at the time. And I think, that's partly being a teenage girl and the hormones that goes on with it. And then also just partly feeling, being in a environment where I was the only one,
right.
Just always being the oddball, the one that doesn't fit. One of these things doesn't belong,
Right. One of these things is doing
and,
right.
And but that was just like that was part of who I internalized. And then as I grew up, that inner critic, what are people going to think, and all of that stuff used to follow me around, but it wasn't from outside of me, it was inside.
Right.
And I had to become conscious again, wake up and recognize that inner voice is not there to help me. It's not there to keep me moving forward. It's not there to help me be more productive, to help me be more loving, to help me show up and be more authentic in the world. Mm-hmm. It's there to silence me. It's there to keep me, it's there to breed fear, but sell it to me as safety. I'm just trying to keep you safe. But really, you're just trying to fill me with fear. And I said to my inner critic the other day, and this might make people think I'm crazy, but I don't care. because I'm showing up authentically in my world. So, but I said to my, to that inner critic, because I heard it coming in one day, and I said, hey, fear, you're not welcome to speak. I know you're here to try to keep me safe, and I know why you're bringing these messages.
Yeah.
But you are not in the driver's seat anymore. Yep. So you can come along on the ride with me.
Right.
And we can go and we can have this adventure. You can always be there, but you're not allowed to speak and you're not allowed to drive. And like, I will be completely honest, I got that imagery from Elizabeth Gilbert's book. Big Magic.
Oh, you did talk about
Big
that
Magic.
before.
Love that book. And it was interesting because I read it during a time when I was actually really depressed, really not feeling very settled in my life. And this book is really about creatives and writers and people being their authentic, artistic self. So like, I don't understand. Well, I know why it resonated with me because I am an inner artist, but like but it didn't, it didn't apply to me in terms of like, I'm not a writer. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to write a book or be a playwright or all these things, but it did just call to my soul. And one of the things that really called to me was how she talked about, they're the people that are in the car with you on your road trip, right? In your mind, okay? And it's fear, it's creativity, right? And then it's you, everything that makes you, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of those things are competing. Creativity is like, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go paint the town red. Let's go find something to do, right? Creativity is happy, right? And then, fear is more the one that's sitting back going, we should probably do some research. We should probably do a cost-benefit analysis. Do you think maybe we should put a spreadsheet and decide? I think we should probably wait for 5 years before we delve in. How could we possibly move forward in this if I don't have a degree in this topic, right? Like,
well. See, now let me tell you, that also sounds a lot like fear, procrastination, fear, perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectionism, the other side of that coin is procrastination. And everything you said sounds like you're trying to be perfect, and you're always, when you're trying to be perfect, taking a longer and longer time, putting it off, not getting it done out of fear. Absolutely. And why? Because like you said, that fitting in thing. And then with social media, you have an instant gratification. If you have done a good job, not just because of yourself, but if you get that like, and God forbid there could be a love on there. Oh, wait a minute. All I got were likes and no loves. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm just saying, like, it starts to
that is the reality, right? And so I think there you touched on one of the places that I feel is, the danger zone, right? Within social media. And like, I'm not a fear monger. I don't want to be a fear monger. So please, but I want to be a person that wakes up in my life and is not on autopilot and really does question, is this really the best thing in my life right now? And how is it serving me? And I will reevaluate and I will, see how it lines up over time.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is that element that you're talking about, the validation, that many people are using social media as a means of validation, right? If not enough likes, if I don't have enough followers, if I don't have enough, if so-and-so Big Daddy on Twitter didn't retweet my tweet, oh my God, like I must not be worth anything. Yeah. And so to find that we're starting to take our uninvestigated mental world into this cyber world. And we're then allowing all these uninvestigated mental worlds to collide. Okay. And what's happening? People are really having some negative effects on social media. Like, I don't want to, get all, but people are.
Well, I mean, like, if you're
feeling anxious, they're feeling depressed, they're feeling like that competitive, edge, and all of those things. And so,
chicken theory or whatnot. This,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've stopped using, for me, social media is more of a business platform. And I think you started off the conversation talking about, as a business, everybody, all the corporations and anybody who's in business now, they're realizing that they need to jump onto social media.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, there are many people who are choosing to get off of social media. Do you feel like this is a trend that you're seeing, or do you feel like this is just maybe an occasional person or two, or is this something that you've come into face-to-face contact with?
Oh, absolutely. I know that I have a few friends who go on diets of social media often, like just as much as they'll fast, like in the beginning of the year, sometimes at church from different types of foods, they'll do a social media fast.
Mm-hmm.
And energy has always clearly been real. It can't be created nor destroyed. So it's always been there. And then when you're able to have not just a one-to-one connection, but like a one-to-many connection and a many-to-one, that thing you just talked about, it's clear that your inner world can be influenced by even more people than what it used to be before. And so it is important to, I think, just take a little step back. But I also notice this when I go on vacation. Like, one of the reasons when you do vacation for real, a true vacation, you get away from your everyday routine and you just have fun. That doesn't mean that you're not taking a couple of pictures and posting them here and there, but you're engaged in like the novelty of like discovering this new stuff. And even if it's in your own city, you're just in a different mental space. You're not working and you're connecting with whoever that person is with you, even if you do a little self-vacation. And so one of the things I took from the vacation I went on a couple of years ago was that I needed to build more daily vacations into my life. And so one of the things that I decided to do was to turn off my notifications on my cell phone. Mm-hmm. So I am an entrepreneur. I also have a 9-to-5, and it's a regular 40-hour-a-week commitment. And it's a really awesome, creative, fun environment, but it takes a lot of focus. So that is 40 hours that I'm totally comfortable with giving every week. And, I'm totally engaged when I'm there. So that means nights and weekends is when I really get to put effort into my own business. And I have to figure out a way to still give that some love. And then I need to give me and the people around me some love. So, and I see other people doing that for me as well. I called you the other night, just like a random, like I knew that it was something that was really exciting for me. I called you the other night and I knew that you were probably getting the kids home, the baby home and doing everything. And you still gave me a little bit of time. I just had to tell you real quick. I was like, okay, I know you got to go. Okay. And I appreciated that moment because even though it wasn't something that, we got to talk a long, long, long time, I know how valuable that moment was. Like, I don't take that little moment for granted, or at least I try not to, because most people are juggling quite a few things. And that's just the nature of the times that we're living in. So, that is not just me. You're right. It's other people in this age range, and people have managed it in different ways. So that's how I do it. I do daily, I'm not looking at my phone, or at least I'm not looking at my notifications. So I don't have that constant red light driving me batty.
Yeah. So like one of the things that you said that I wrote down because it just stood out to me is take a step back and really take a step back and evaluate, right? Evaluate where you are and then turn off notifications. So these are like, the T's, right? So the dangers of social media, we talked about the 3Ds and now we're talking about the T's. Take a step back and turn off notifications. Now, here's something that I think is really important to tease out as well, that it's not just social media. It's the device.
The device itself.
It's the device itself. Because even when I turn off social media, I still feel like I need to have this phone in my hand. And then my text messages, like I'm on a bunch of multiple people text chats. And so then your phone is blowing up. So distraction. So I've also turned off my sound. I turned off the sound on the phone, and I've turned off most notifications. Any new app that I download, if it says, would you like to get notifications? It's always a no. It's always a no, just because all of the apps are designed to try and get your attention. They want you to, obviously, the whole point is to get you to spend time on it. Right? And so that time is your most valuable resource.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And
you're right.
What you do with that time that you take back from the distractions, right? The things that pull you away. And what are we trying to be distracted from? In my experience, we're distracting ourselves from ourselves.
I think so. I think that's a good thing to look at. I just listened to something that was so good, and it was about distractions, and it was about, what was it? It was like the thing that we need to really investigate, because some of the stuff that we really need to do, and it's even in Stephen Covey's book when he talks about the 4 quadrants, the stuff that we could invest like major time in. I'm sure I'm doing this in the wrong way on this camera, but the second quadrant, when you spend time in that area, that is the stuff that isn't really fun and glamorous, but spending an hour or 2 there could literally make the next month of your life a piece of cake. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's not like the fun stuff. It's like, how many of us love working out? Now, Peely and I have a different spin on working out. Like, we kind of love it. But even with our workouts, there's certain things that we'd rather not do. I don't know. If I'm just going to just pick one thing, let's just say stomach, okay?
Crunches, okay? That was the exact thing that was in my head. Crunches.
So, but your core, if you have a strong core, your back pains are going to be like maybe non-existent, but definitely more manageable. Like, so much of your body is just relying on a strong core, just like the core of you as a spirit being. Like, if you have your foundation strong, then there's so many other things that just naturally align. So if you're able to spend time not just putting out the fires, clearly if you have a nosebleed, that's like something that you have no choice but to have to address. But maybe before the nosebleed came, maybe you had just like some dehydration and you just weren't drinking your water as much as you should have. Now you have a bigger issue to deal with because you're dehydrated and your tissues are bleeding and all that kind of stuff. So that's just my own little metaphor, if you will, on when the things that we need to be spending time on and that we find the distractions to kind of take our mind away from it, it's the stuff that will change our lives. But it's not always glamorous, and it might take some work, a little bit of just not the most comfortable work. But if you do it, it'll set your life in a whole I mean, I'm thinking about, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about like 15 things at once that have happened over this year, since, January till now in my own life, where I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Right.
dang, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's, what we choose, what is it? Energy goes where energy flows, or energy flows where energy goes. Yeah. Energy flows where energy goes. So, if I am focused on the negative things in my life, then that's where the energy is going to flow. And that's when I'm going to start manifesting in my life. If I'm focused on, development, self-development, if I'm focused on character development, if I'm focused on, relationship development, if I'm focused on being the best me that I can be in each moment. So not being a role but being the best, whatever role I am fulfilling in that moment, being the best me. And then also knowing me, because I can't really be the best me without knowing me. And most of the time, our view of ourselves has been formulated through the lens of our life circumstances, our family, what people have said about us, the people that have shaped us. But there is still the reality that you are a unique being that has, sentient life in you, that has a deeper, why do we have this huge complex organ in our heads and we only use 10% of it?
Let me explain.
What's the rest of it for? And no, but I know what it is. But what's the rest of it for? And then what the rest of it is for is for you to be able to tap into your inner power. Like, there is so much power we have as human beings, and we use so little of it because we spend so much time being human doings. We're always doing. And if we could start to learn to be with ourselves, and I know that for some that might be a scary place to really be with yourself, because maybe your inner critic hasn't been told to sit down and take a back seat and be quiet, but not in a way where it's like, don't you come in here, but in a way where it's like, it's a loving way. It's like the way you would lovingly talk to your 5-year-old who's not listening to you, right? But you want to lovingly let this little person know that this behavior is not okay, that you're not going to stand for it. I still love you. I know why you're doing this. You want my attention. I know why you're doing this. You want me to see you. But this is not the best way for you to get that attention. And so we say that to ourselves. We start to really parent our inner child that was not parented, or that might have been parented incompletely.
Absolutely. And when you said the thing, this is what I was going to say earlier about your inner world. If you aren't sure, because I know that some people could listen to this and be like, what are they talking about? The inner critic? Who is this? The inner critic is that voice that is implanted based on what other people have told you, whether implicit or explicit, whether directly or just suggested, whether it was just because you never had a chance to play with Barbie dolls that looked the way you did when you were little. And so just by the absence of something that represented who you were, that in and of itself told you that you weren't beautiful. Just something like that. So that's that's what implicit means. The point is, a lot of times our outer world reflects our inner world. If you're in constant calamity, or the 5 people that you spend the most time with are negative, they're broken of spirit, or they're healthy, they're talking about positive things, they're adventurous and having fun and things like that, they're a reflection of you. believe that your outer world is a reflection of you. I remember at one point I had a workplace environment that was very toxic. And it was a reflect, but there, funny enough, there were some good little pieces in there as well. But there were some folks that I gravitated toward who were very, very critical. And I know the reason that was is because I was still participating in some type of a unknowing dance with the inner critic that was spewing the same story, the same press release, the same false press release that I had believed for a long time, and I was stuck in this loop. So naturally, even though the true self was trying to make a stand for something better, it was like a new little fledgling. Like it was like this, but then when the cold water would come from the negative past, and then it was reinforced by the people that I had myself around, it was easy to go back into that shell and go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not meant to do this thing that I'm really truly meant to do. It was fueling the self-doubt opposed to fueling that beautiful flower that lies within me and all of us. Mm-hmm. And when I got away from that environment, and I'm telling you, it was nothing but God, I got swept out of that environment like a cool, healing breeze. And not only was I promoted, I was in the company of beautiful people who reflected the beauty that I actually was then, and that I continue to be now. And when you get put into position, there's going to be these voices that make you go, do I really deserve to be paid this much? Do I really deserve this? Because the momentum has been one of so much self-doubt and so much criticism. And it takes a little time for that change to occur. In anything, there's change management. It's simple inertia, if nothing more. Mm-hmm. Just the physics of going in one direction and then changing directions to another path. And understanding how that movement went, having gone through it, I hope I make sense here when the both of us, I hope we were making sense. But in this kind of breakdown, I want it to be very clear that it's something that goes on kind of just like the air that we breathe. Like we don't see the air, we're just breathing. It's mm-hmm. that pervasive. So the pain that we experience in our life is normally the thing that wakes us up. That's just how it works. So thank God for the pain, because it woke me up. Now you're aware. And when you get the knowledge that there's something better out there, just welcome the things that come. And then you have to put it into action, because knowledge is power, but wisdom is empowerment. That's when it's actually embodied and you actually act on it. And that's something that, that's that next step.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good.
So I mean, that's just, kind of theoretical, but
we have not solved any problems.
No.
And that's okay, because this is not what this was about. This was about starting the conversation around the distractions in our lives, the things that keep us disconnected and disassociated, and with particular attention on how much time we're spending on our devices, and
what we're allowing to influence us.
Right? So I, for a while, had the routine of I'd wake up in the morning, my phone hit the alarm, and then I'd pick my phone up and check whatever social media or what, and it's like I started to recognize that instead of allowing, because the morning, they call this like the ethereal time, the time when we're still in connection with all the realms, right? So this, I'm going to get, okay. But it's like when we're still in connection with all the energy that connects us, right? Within our dream world, when we're dreaming, our minds don't know the difference between reality and the dream.
Right.
We're feeling all the same emotions, all the same, sensations in the dream as we are in reality.
Right.
So what we can, when we're in that dream-like state and we're just coming out of consciousness, that is the most powerful time to start to write down like thoughts, impressions, ideas for the future, ideas for the day, intentions for how you want to show up in your world and how you want to show up in your life. And that's the best time to start to fill your mind with the things that you want to be thinking about throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I decided to, stop checking my phone, checking social media first thing in the morning, and allow that time to be, sometimes I'll write, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I wake up and everybody's moving and there's a hustle and there's a bustle, but I allow that time to just be phoneless. And, for the most part, I have to check my time. So other than that, but, phoneless for the most part. And that has been really good. And I'm not saying that I do it every day, and I'm not saying that I do it perfectly, but I have noticed a difference as I've been more intentional about how I start my day. My days have been rising to meet the intent.
I love that.
Lovely. Yeah. So that's been one thing. And I remember looking at briefly a post. Like I forgot that I wasn't supposed to check my phone in the morning. I went to Facebook one morning and I saw one article that was talking about, I think it was talking about pools. And the caption was, the most toxic thing you're going to get in this summer. And then there was a picture of the pool, right? And I knew I did not want to click on this link because summer was starting. My son's going to be in the pool pretty much every day of the summer. And I'm going to be in the pool and I just don't want to know. Sometimes you just don't want to know. But today I went and I swam in the pool for the first time in a long time, like as exercise. And it was so great. Anyway, but I've never done it like for exercise. I only just do it for play. So I went to swim in the pool. And then as I was, showering, I had the thought, wow, that water goes in and out of everybody's mouths. And then it goes into my mouth. And then it goes out. I've never had that thought in all my years of swimming. And I've been blissful. And I think the only reason that I had that thought was because I read that one line of an article that I knew that I did not want to read because I didn't want to have that psychic disturbance in my mind.
Psychic disturbance. I love that term.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. And I'm telling you, it's true. I don't watch the news. I'm sorry. I'm extremely educated, just like my cousin, but there's just certain psychic disturbances that I just don't need to invite in my life. I'm sorry.
And for the most part, when the news that you need to know comes to you,
it's very
and there's a lot of news out there that you don't need to know. Like there's some things, and I'm taking even just personal things. Like sometimes when I'm talking to people and they start talking to me about somebody who I don't know, or maybe somebody who we do know, but still, I often think to myself, I'm not sure that I should know this. Right? And, just because I've not been in an environment where I've been kind of blessed, I guess, where I don't really work that much with other people in like an office environment. I've been an independent, an independent contractor for at least 10 years now. So it's just been me and, the people that I choose to partner with or work with or the institutions that I go into. But just on an everyday basis, I don't have the wine cooler. The wine cooler. The water.
I want a wine cooler
at work. And I don't have the, coworkers coming to my desk and just chit-chatting or whatever. So I think, to a certain extent, I feel like that's a blessing because I don't necessarily have to deal with some of the relational stresses that come into play in office politics or office dynamics.
At our office, we call it the chisme. And I most certainly am privy to our fair share. But, just a little segue, if you are at an office, your energy is felt And if there's something that they're talking about that you like, give it the energy. And if it's something that like, oh yeah, that's great. If it's something that they're talking about that you really don't want to be about, you can make yourself gray. Just think about a gray wall and just be like, and go back to doing what you're doing. And they'll stop talking to you about it, because most people, when they talk, they want some type of a volley. So
Yeah.
little example there, tip.
Love it. That's so good. Well, like I said, we have not solved any problems, and this is not the goal. We hope that this has been a very interesting topic that we've started, and we hope that we can continue the conversation.
Yes.
We want to continue the conversation. There has to be an additional part to this. And we also want to hear from you, your experiences with social media, with distraction, ways that you're combating distraction, or if you're just really kind of struggling with it. Because I feel like one of the reasons that we started this conversation is because I just had this murky gray feeling like I'm struggling with it. You know, do I want to be on it? Do I not want to be on it? You know, is this a good thing? Is it not a good thing? In this case, is this big bad Facebook, watching all my stuff, Big Brother looking at me, or is this just a vehicle for interconnectedness that is really good, and people, just being afraid of something new, causing more fear? What is it? And I don't know. So I wanted to have the conversation, and I really appreciate this opportunity to have the conversation. And I hope this was pleasant for everyone involved.
And fun and entertaining. So please leave us your comments on this video. Please, either on YouTube. You can also hit us on Instagram. I'm at I am Wendy with an I. And of course, Pili is at Essential Yoga Space. That's where you can find the both of us. And then, of course, on our Happy Hippie Me, that's HIPPY, Happy Hippie Me, on Facebook. Okay? Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next Wednesday, have a good week.
Good evening.